Hello everyone. This was a good week of chapters, though not as good as last week, but with some interesting surprises, and overall the heroes did pull out quite a bit more resolve than I was expecting. So, we're going to start off with One Piece, chapter 1038, and this was a good chapter with a lot of moving parts, as it seems we're inching ever closer to the end of this act, between Zoro facing death after healing his injuries, but only for a short time, and in a joking fashion it looks like he can't defy death twice like he did with Thriller Bark. We also have Yamato trying to still stop the ghostly fire specter. The Raizo fight is still going on, and it's just going to keep going on at this point. The biggest intrigue outside of the ending is Izo stopping the CP0 agents, and it looks like Izo is going to verse them, which is very interesting to see if he can survive and outfight them, though it's 2-on-1, and it looks like the CP0 agents are extremely powerful. Just taking out Drake alone is enough to really warrant that. And then the main event of the chapter, which is Big Mom versus Kid and Law, and the fight seemingly was over before it started, as Law and Kid were completely beaten up and down and out by Big Mom. Big Mom had destroyed them, and the other two's crew were begging Big Mom to stop. It looked like all was lost and Big Mom was going to go assist Kaido when Law and Kid were able to stop her, and now their plan is to just hold her off for Luffy to win, which I thought was an interesting twist, as at least right now it does seem as though Big Mom might escape this arc, though my previous predictions of her showing up at Elbaf may not come to fruition, though that would be interesting. I think at this point, after Wano, if she survives, I imagine she's going to go back home to see the Whole Cake Kingdom in shambles, and she'll have to try to fix it, and the next time we see Big Mom is at the final battle of Raftel. So that's my prediction here, and that Kid and Law are able to hold her off long enough for Luffy to win, ultimately kill Kaido, or maybe even let him live, who knows, and ultimately win the arc. For now, though, they are holding their own quite a bit better than I had expected, but also not as well as I expected, because I expected them to actually outright win and do better, but then them starting out really bad in this chapter, but then ultimately taking another big step up into the fight. But I imagine they can't hang on too much longer, even though the damage to Big Mom is starting to really gain on her. But for now, this fight seemingly is entering its endgame, and especially with everything else going on, it does look like things are reaching its apex for at least this act. So overall, I think I'm going to give this chapter an A. It was a very busy chapter in a good way, as it sped everything along, from Chopper being healed from his side effect of the Rumble Ball, then to Zoro being on death's door, Yamato fighting off the Ghost Spectre, Izo's interaction with CP0, and the big battle at the end. Things are looking like they're trending towards the peak of what could happen, as the entirety of the island is still crumbling underneath itself. The fires are spreading faster, things are getting more and more dangerous and dire, so I imagine things are about to wrap up, if that makes any sense. This act could end sooner rather than later, and I imagine that it'll end up being like an act 4 and not just end the arc here, though maybe it's the giant finale and there were only 3 acts, but that seems like a waste. We'll see what Oda does, if he makes a good or a bad decision, depending upon really where he wants the story to go. But my money is on the act ending and not the arc. So now we're on to Black Clover, chapter 321, and this was another good chapter as we see the captains and Yuno continue their valiant effort against Lucifero. However, the bulk of the chapter revolving around Mimosa trying to heal Asta and Seki being caught in the middle of it, and watching as Asta and Yuno are taking on an absolute monster while he is just watching in the background. He wishes at the very end that he had taken himself a little bit more seriously and trained more to try to get stronger, as Asta, not being fully healed, just as I actually thought, which was fun. Mimosa wasn't able to fully heal him, but Asta was getting up anyway, so he's going to try to do something, and probably, if I had to guess, in his weakened state, he's going to move up towards Lucifero through sheer willpower alone, and probably cut him in a way. I don't think it's a final blow, but the fact that his perfect skin was marked will set Lucifero off even more than he was already, leading to basically every captain being killed, if I were to make a bold claim. I don't think Marioliana survives, though I wouldn't be surprised if she did, but so many others didn't, but she was heavily wounded, as she's seemingly the only captain still in the fight, and Yuno is actually putting up quite the battle right now himself, being able to at least continue to stand on his own magical ability, leading to just how powerful he is, and then Asta is Asta and won't give up. So we'll see if his valiant bravery and willpower are rewarded or if they're punished. So overall, I think I'll give this chapter a B, as not much happened and it did focus a little too heavily on Sake instead of like everything else. But it doesn't in a sense make sense to have it that a minor character gets to see yet another one of Asta's never say die moments, and seeing that and potentially bettering himself, as he has been a part of this story since the beginning. Do I see them winning this? No, as I've said many times before. At this point, though, I wouldn't be surprised if Asta got further injured in like a major way. Though we'll see if the right decisions are made, or if just simple shonen victories are more important. But for now, this arc is ramping up to its boiling point of victory or defeat, and I'm leaning towards the latter. Now we're on to Undead Unluck, and this was a good chapter. An unexpected chapter, though Ginja said in the comments last week that Fuko would be turned into a ghost. I did not think that was going to happen, but they got it right. They were spot on, so good for them. And thank you for commenting all the time, just as a small thank you. They got it right, which was awesome for them, and seemingly that's where the next arc's gonna go, that everyone now has to try to save Fuko from the Uma ghost. Ruin continues to be a gigantic thorn in everyone's side, and is almost in a joking fashion the clown villain to Andy, and is like this major thorn in his side and his side alone, and is so very cartoonishly evil that it'll end up making a really entertaining villain for Andy, as they're basically the same character, just one good, one evil, and one just very, very clown-like, in a joking sense, like the Batman and Joker dynamic in this new villain hero role, and I'm very curious to see how it goes from here, because at the very end of the chapter, Fuko is taken away by Uma Ghost, but Andy was able to touch her in her ghost form, leading it to that they can save her eventually. Ruin wants Ghost to eat Fuko right away, however, Ghost says that he wants to save Fuko for later. So because of that arrogance, Ruin is going to end up losing out on that opportunity to get rid of Fuko, as what I'm assuming is going to happen is that the Union is going to preserve and heal up Fuko's body and save her, while Andy and some other close members of both sides, Union and Order, go on to try to save Fuko and eventually succeed, bringing the ghost back and putting it back into her body. We'll end up seeing how well that goes, as well as the other rewards, as now it's mostly about getting Fuko back, though they do get other quote-unquote rewards for completing their tasks. I'm curious to see what they are and how they use them in the future. But for now, that's the new arc has begun. The Save Fuko arc part 7. So overall, I think I'll give this chapter a B. It was good. It was a good follow-up to last week where an insane power was able to save Fuko, but another insane power took her away. We'll see how long this arc goes on for and how involved Ruin is, though I do imagine Ruin is going to be the major thorn in Andy's side for the remainder of the series, even into whatever bold direction it's going to go into. So for now, this new arc will at least be somewhat interesting to see if they do anything different with the saving Fuko again storyline. So now we're on to Mashle, Magic and Muscles, chapter 94, and this was a good chapter, with Mash going one-on-one with Demina and pissing off Demina so much that Demina goes into like Super Saiyan anger mode, and the battle gets even more intense than it was before, but Mash can't shut up and continues to antagonize him, which is excellent. So Mash is able to break out of a water prison, take a water spear to the stomach, and so many other things, all in order to just piss off Demina more and more. It's incredible what Mash can do. And the fact that this whole manga is just Mash deliberately taking out overpowered characters with their own stuff is incredible. And I can't wait to see how this fight ends, just simply because I can't imagine Mash losing at this point. Only because he keeps just breaking the rules of the universe, which is hysterical. Like in any other story, any other series, Demina would be having an overwhelming advantage and some absolutely ridiculous means would need to be taken to defeat him. But with Mash, I am not worried in the slightest. I'm more excited to see what Mash can do to just continue to aggravate Demina, and that's extremely entertaining and silly. So these next few chapters should be extremely fun as Demina gets more and more unhinged as Mash continuously calls him a daddy's boy. It's incredible. So overall, I'm going to give this chapter a B. The fighting was very fun and very good, and Mash continues to be one of the most entertaining main characters in any of the stories in Shonen Jump thus far. Maybe outside of Sakamoto, as Sakamoto just doesn't care about anything. But Mash doesn't care about the rules. And that is what makes him dangerous. So now we're on to Sakamoto Days, chapter 56, and this was a good chapter. It was the continuation of last week with Sakamoto and co trying to figure out a way to get the information they need, and what they have decided to do is have Sakamoto and Shin sign up to become students for the JCC. So Sakamoto wants to go to the JCC to get more information on Slur. This is very funny just because he's already graduated from there, but he can't get back in for alumni reasons, so he's going in as a student with Shin. The JAA are struggling, as well as some of the other major assassins try to figure out what to do next, as well as they continue to assess the damage being done to their major building here, and to try to figure out a way to move forward with whatever plans they need to do, as they now need to recruit more to recoup the losses from Slur's attack, as Slur is still trying to figure out what to do next with his own plan, though he seems to be ready for whatever new idea that comes to his mind. So this chapter was very fun and silly, with now the next arc being even more ridiculous. We are also potentially getting a new member to the crew. So overall, I think I'll give this chapter a B. It was good. It was entertaining to see all of our major players of the story trying to figure out their next move. And again, the prospect of the next arc, having it that Sakamoto is trying to go back to school, quote unquote, just for some information, and having to survive that while seemingly protecting both Shin and what I suspect to be the next crew member, quote unquote. So that was all of the chapters, all the major chapters. They were all very good, with 4 out of the 5 dealing with the main character's hero resolve, and Sakamoto being Sakamoto. Now the minor chapters were all very good, between Dr. Stone continuing its final arc, moving steadily forward with some interesting twists, Jujutsu Kaisen defeating more villains, Izakura family dealing more with their character development, Elusive Samurai continuing its plot development, now separating the major core of characters from the mentor character, Blue Box being fine, P times 6 continuing its arc and having Lucky continue to learn more about what he wants to do with music, Ashimon continuing to be a very interesting and entertaining series with a major sacrifice thrown in right at the very end, and Doron continuing to look like it's on more or less death's door. So that was all of the chapters. They were all very good, and next week will hopefully be another good week. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, and as always, thank you for watching.